So Prince Charles decided to hit up Camilla and see if she was interested in an affair. And of course, she was. So around 1978 through 1979, Camilla's husband was said to be fully aware of what was happening between Camilla and Prince Charles. Now, despite his relationship with Camilla, Prince Charles began hitting on Princess Diana in 1980. Though Prince Charles was dating Diana, he and Camilla were still quite close. Camilla and Diana were actually spotted attending one of Charles' events back in 1980. So these two women were kind of being tagged along until he decided who was going to be the winner, which he ended up marrying both at the end, which is weird to think about. Prince Charles and Camilla reportedly began seeing one another again in 1986, despite both of them being married with children. In recordings she made for author Andrew Morton's book, Diana, Her True Story, Princess Diana recalled calling Camilla out for her affair with Charles. In January 1993, audio recordings of Prince Charles and Camilla were leaked, and the transcripts were published in the British tabloid. The audio included both raunchy innuendos and outright declarations of love. Ooh, juicy. Quote, "I'll just live inside your trousers or something. It would be much easier," Prince Charles said. Camilla responded, "What are you going to turn into? A pair of undies?" "Oh, you're going to come back as a pair of undies," they laughed. "Or for God bid, a Tampax, just my luck." Prince Charles said, "Oh, wow. He wants to come back as her undies. He wants to come back as her tampon. He wants to be all up in her cooter, it sounds like." Prince Charles is a nasty man. Camilla laughed at the notion. "You are a complete idiot. Oh, what a wonderful idea." Ooh. When it was published in the media, a bunch of tabloids called it the most explicit and embarrassing phone call to ever be leaked. Now, him cheating on his wife with Camilla really hurt his reputation, so Prince Charles allowed a documentary filmmaker to follow him for a year and a half in hopes of repairing the damage to his reputation caused by the stories of his adultery. But when this documentary comes out, it has the opposite effect and people do not like him.
Did you try to be faithful and honourable to your wife when you took on the vow of marriage?
Yes, absolutely.
And you were?
Yes, until it became irretrievably broken down.
So Diana's separation from Charles was announced in December 1992 by the British Prime Minister. He read a statement from the royal family to the House of Commons.
"It is announced from Buckingham Palace that with regret, the Prince and Princess of Wales have decided to separate."
So in 1996, their divorce was finalized, and Diana was allowed to keep her apartment at Kensington Palace. She was provided access to jets used by the royal family. Prince Charles was no longer responsible for her bills, so she didn't have that royal family money, but she did have access to a lot of the benefits. It seemed like the royal family didn't mind Princess Diana post-divorce because Queen Elizabeth II was reportedly willing to let her keep the title, but Prince Charles adamantly insisted that she loses her royal title. So she had to give up her position at the British throne, which I think she was happy to, relieve. She didn't want to be a part of this family anymore. Let's talk about Princess Diana's life after divorce. She had several romantic relationships after divorcing Prince Charles. She dated the British Pakistani heart surgeon Hasnat Khan, who has been described as the love of her life from 1955 to 1997. But in 1997, she dated an Egyptian film producer and playboy Dodi Fayed in 1997. And it was reported that some members of the royal family and former Prime Minister Tony Blair did not approve of the relationship that Diana and Dodi had. Now, Diana actually met Dodi for the first time back in 1986 at a polo match, in which he competed against her then husband, Prince Charles. They did not reconnect until 11 years later when Princess Diana was now single. Prior to reconnecting with Princess Diana, the producer was reportedly engaged to a model, but then the engagement was called off. And Dodi actually called off the engagement because Princess Diana essentially slid in his DMs. Princess Diana was going on vacations with these men. She was dating around. She wasn't actually even really exclusive with anyone, and people were just following her to see who she was dating next, who she was going to be seen yachting with all day in, the south of France. And while life seemed okay and the divorce went through and, Diana was living, there was a moment where an accident took this all away, and Diana's future was erased. Now, Dodi and Diana were going to go on a date around 9:30 p.m., but due to paparazzi attention, they ended up back at the Ritz. They tried to eat at another restaurant, but then 10 minutes later, they went in to dine in an imperial suite. Diana reportedly ordered an appetizer of mushrooms and asparagus, and then the sole. Shortly after midnight, they decided to leave the hotel to go to Dodi's apartment. Henry Paul, the head of the Ritz security, drove them in a Mercedes car. They left around 12:20 a.m. through the back entrance of the hotel. Though they had attempted to decoy the car at the Ritz, paparazzi quickly picked up their trail. In the car, neither Princess Diana nor Dodi were wearing their seatbelts. Now, I want to carefully break down how this accident went down because there are so many conspiracies around it. So here is a clip where we walk through where the car was and how it ended up in an accident.
The car enters the tunnel at around 100 miles per hour. The last thing bystanders see before they hear a sound that will haunt their dreams is a black blur disappearing into the maw of the underpass. There's a slight dip in the roadway as the lane swerves to the right and then back to the left. The car clips a concrete pillar, and Paul loses control. The sound of tires screaming as they lock up from Paul slamming on the brakes and skidding across the tunnel roadway can be heard from the outside. This is followed by a gut-wrenching crash that sounds like an explosion as the front of the Mercedes slams into a pillar, ricochets across the tunnel, flipping at least once, hits the far wall, and slowly comes to a stop in the middle of the road, facing the direction from which the car originally entered.
So around 12:25 a.m., 5 minutes after they left the hotel, the car was traveling in a tunnel at dangerously high speed. Seconds after the car enters the tunnel in the left westbound lane, it goes out of control, striking the 13th concrete pillar dividing the tunnel, rolls over and rebounds into the right wall, and then it spins around. When the car stops, it's facing east in the direction it came from. So completely like a 180. Though the posted speed limit was 30 miles per hour, the driver was reportedly driving at 70 miles per hour. 2 minutes after the accident, firefighters received a call for help, and police and firefighters were there at 12:40. When they arrived, both the driver, Henry Paul, and Dodi were pronounced dead at the scene. Witness later testified that paparazzi continued taking photos, and 7 photographers were taken into police custody at the scene for taking these horrific pictures of these people who have just been brutalized. At the same time as the crash, a French doctor named Dr. Frederic was driving through the tunnel. He witnessed the crash and quickly rushed to the scene. He walked towards the wreckage. He opened the door and he looked inside, and he recalled that there were 4 people. 2 were apparently dead, no reaction, no breathing, and 2 others on the right side were living but in severe condition. The front passenger was screaming. He was breathing. He could wait a few minutes. The female passenger, the young lady, was on her knees on the floor of the Mercedes. She had her head down and she was having a difficult time breathing. She needed quick assistance. He ran into his car. He called emergency services and he grabbed a respiratory bag. She was unconscious. Thanks to his respiratory bag, she regained a little bit more energy, but she couldn't say anything. A firefighter who reportedly was on the scene said that Diana's last words were, "My God, what's happened?" When Princess Diana was extracted from the wreckage of the car, she went into cardiac arrest. First responders performed CPR and then got her into a hospital. Princess Diana was declared dead around 4 a.m. in Paris on August 31st, 1997, at the age of 36.
We have reports from Paris that Diana, Princess of Wales, has been killed in a car accident and that her partner, Dodi Fayed, has also been killed. They were apparently being pursued by paparazzi on 2 motorcycles.
Of course, this is international news. I mean, someone who was part of the royal family has been killed. So everyone's talking about it and everybody's shocked because, I mean, car accidents happen every day. But, I mean, someone like Princess Diana, she should be in the hands of someone who's a little bit more safe. Even though the doctor tried his best to fix her wounds, to close up that tear that was in her lung, and to make sure her heart was running, there was really nothing else he could do, and her body had given up. He said, "Her specific injury is so rare that in my entire career, I don't believe I've seen another." He believes that Diana's death could have been prevented by one small change, a seatbelt. Had she been restrained, she probably would have appeared in the public 2 days later with a black eye, perhaps a bit breathless from the fractured ribs and a broken arm, but she would have been alive. That's why wearing your seatbelt is so important. If you do not wear your seatbelt, you better start. Later that day, when Princess Diana had died, then Prince Charles flew to Paris with Diana's sisters. They brought her body home, and there was a funeral held on September 6, 1997. It's unfortunate that Princess Diana had died, and I wish I had got to have seen her do her thing in my lifetime, but we hadn't, and it's sad. And a lot of people can't come to terms with why she had died. So let's talk a little bit about those conspiracies. Thank you for watching this clip from the Let's Get Into It podcast. To view the full episode, visit the link listed below.